It's a best practice to update your DeviceMaster to the newest available socket server and bootloader firmware to ensure you have access to the latest features and improvements. DeviceMaster Firmware is available at downloads.comtrol.com. Click on DeviceMaster, then the category of DeviceMaster unit you have, then Firmware. Download the latest firmware files on this page. Each of these files is distributed as a compressed zip archive with the file name extension .cmtl. Once you've obtained these files, the next step is to upload them to the DeviceMaster itself. The easiest and most reliable way to update the firmware of your DeviceMaster is through the web interface. This method is available only if your DeviceMaster is currently running firmware version 11.0 or later. To update via the web interface, open a browser and navigate to the IP address of the DeviceMaster. Click on the System category at the top. The Update Firmware screen is the first subcategory beneath the main tabs, so it shows up automatically. Click the Browse button, then navigate to the folder with the CMTL files. The files need to be uploaded one at a time. It's best practice to update the socket server firmware first before updating the bootloader firmware, so select Socket Server and click Open. Then, click Update to upload the firmware file to the DeviceMaster. The firmware update process can take a couple of minutes, after which the DeviceMaster will reboot. Once it finishes, check the firmware version on the web interface to verify the update was successful. If you see the newly updated version, proceed to update the bootloader firmware by repeating the upload process. If the unit is running an earlier firmware version, the update must be done through another method, such as PortVision-DX. To use PortVision-DX to update the firmware of the DeviceMaster, first, configure the DeviceMaster so that the PC running PortVision-DX can fully access the device over the network. The unit must be listed as online, its Properties window must show all three tabs, and the device's web interface must be accessible. Once those three conditions are in place, right-click the device entry in the bottom half of the PortVision window and go to Advanced, then Upload Firmware. Navigate to the folder with the CMTL files. The files need to be uploaded one at a time, and, as before, it's best practice to update the socket server firmware first. Select the socket server firmware and click Open. Note the warning and instructions, and if everything is ready, click Yes. It may take a couple of minutes to upload the firmware. After the firmware is uploaded to the device, it will go offline during the burn process and then reboot. Once the device is online again, verify that the socket server version is the new updated version. Your specific device may say NSLink instead of socket server, depending on its configuration. If all went well with the socket server firmware, repeat this process with the bootloader firmware. It's also possible to update DeviceMaster firmware using TFTP server software and the command line of the DeviceMaster's bootloader. This is recommended only when other methods are not available and will be covered in another video. Once the bootloader and socket server firmware files have been uploaded, your device is up to date.